Okay, welcome back, everybody. Glad to see you again. Let's start with our 5 minutes of calming meditation and setting a positive motivation.
Okay, welcome back. All right, so let's do some review from yesterday. Yesterday we talked about, let's see. Oops. Oh, I didn't. Okay, no slides. Okay, so yesterday, let's see, we talked about the 4 thoughts that turn the mind. Oh, we talked about the realms. So the 6 realms, we can talk about the 3 lower realms and the 3 upper realms. And the 3 lower realms are the hell realms, the hungry ghost realms, and the animal realms. And the upper realms are the human realm, the demigod realm, and the god realm. And the point of the whole teaching is that the human realm is the best realm that you want to be in, because it is one in which we have the capacity, we have the circumstances to be able to continue to develop our minds and develop spiritually. And in the other realms, because of the predominance of delusions like hatred and suffering in particular in the lower realms, there's a lot of suffering from dissatisfaction, from physical and mental pain, from stupidity, that these delusions interfere with the ability of these beings to make any kind of progress spiritually toward liberation or toward developing their minds. That it's only in the upper realms that one can actually think about changing their circumstances. But even in the 2 upper realms, the one that is so filled with jealousy and the one that is filled with pride, the demigod and the god realm, those 2 have such a predominance of these delusions that there isn't motivation, and there isn't the ability to try to work with your afflictive emotions. So there was a story that at one point the Buddha in a past life was in a hell realm, and actually they say that um, his first inkling of wanting to become enlightened or to become enlightened for the benefit of all beings, was in a hell realm. So it is possible. But what he had was he was in one of these hell realms where they had to push these really heavy carts up a hill. And he and someone else were pushing these carts and pushing these carts, and then as soon as they got to the top, they talked about the lords of the hell realms would push them back down, and they'd have to do it over and over again. So it was this constant, hard labor, never free from it. And he had this sense that he could do it for someone else, that he could push the cart up and let someone else rest. And so he did that. And of course, when he got to the top, the overlords, the hell overlords, didn't like that. They got very angry and killed him. And then as a result, he got out of hell. He was actually reborn in another realm and continued. But that was considered his first moment, his first spark of bodhicitta, of wanting to take on the suffering of someone else and become willing for their benefit. Yeah, so yeah, that's an interesting story, because someone had a question yesterday about if there are any other in the other realms, are there any is there any freedom from the delusions? And the answer is yes. Okay, so then we also talked about reincarnation. So to review quickly some of the evidence or some things you can think about. So one of the things is that for most of us, we are rarely completely like, reincarnation doesn't exist. There's no such thing as rebirth. Life ends with death. Okay. Very most people are not completely convinced of that. Many are, but most aren't. Okay. And most people aren't completely convinced that they know absolutely this is the truth. This is what's going to happen. I'm going to be reborn again. Okay. Most of us are somewhere in between this in terms of our strength of belief. Some of us are closer to being convinced it's true. Some of us are closer to being convinced it's not true. So when we look at these reasonings, at some of the evidence and some of the discussions about the possibility of rebirth, then what we can do is, as we study these and as we explore these, we can start to see if our opinion of rebirth moves at all. Because of course you want your mind to engage with these reasonings. You want them, you want to contemplate them and then see, because of course the mind changes as a result of our experiences. So through this teaching, through this contemplation, then hopefully your mind will change in terms of, and from a Buddhist point of view, we would want you to be more convinced that rebirth is possible, because then as a result, your actions in this life don't become only about this life, but become also about future lives. Yeah, and of course getting free from the whole cycle out of our control in the first place. But first, just having, this possibility, it opens up the mind in a big way. It just you start to see things a lot differently. One thing that it did for me was that it really decreased this grasping at me as like so important, like that my personality and my career and even my family, and that my little bubble of who is Drolma starts to be not as important. And I start to see, well, I was many things before and I will be many things again in the future. And so right now, is not as important. And it's not that I don't still, love my family, want my life to be good, create the causes as much as I can for good things to happen. But I don't have this attachment and this grasping, to this, that things have to be a certain way because this is the only way they're ever going to be. And I, like this. So it's a little bit of a shift. It's not nothingness. It's not, I don't care, I'm going to reborn. I don't have to do anything anyway. It's not like that. Yeah. Okay. So, just opening up. So let's see, what were some of the proofs or evidence that we talked about? One was the case studies that Ian Stevenson, the research that Ian Stevenson did into the children who make statements about past lives, and how through his research he started to see that there were things that these children knew about things that happened before they were born, that there was no other way that they could possibly know it other than if they had lived in that past life. And then there was the argument from Dharmakirti about cause and effect, that the brain cannot possibly be the cause of the mind, because the brain is something that is physical and the mind is something that is non-physical. So, and like causes like. And so this mind, this consciousness that we have of this life is not caused by the brain we have of this life, but came from a previous moment of consciousness before we were born, and causes each moment of mind through this life. And then in the last moment that we die, the last moment of our mind becomes the cause for our mind in a next life. Okay. And then we talked about, I think I have it here. We talked about nurture and nature. So many times when, even they do a lot of studies of twins, and they look at twins who are separated at birth. And even some studies, it's interesting, some studies show that twins who are separated as birth, when they grow up, they have similar lives. Some of them, not all of them. But this is interesting. Always the explanation comes only with this genetic or, component that they carried, and also their environment. And it doesn't take into account this possibility that there were potentials, that there were propensities, that there were habits that existed in the minds of those beings that influence who they are today. And we see this in particular in very gifted children when they are very young. It's very difficult to explain that through genetics and through environment and say, oh, everything that they are comes from those two possibilities. So that's another thing. It's a contemplation. It hasn't been researched very much. It's something to look at. The fact that children can have very, very different personalities, even if they come from the same genetic pool and the same environmental, they were raised in the same conditions by the same people. So that's another thing to look at. And then we talked about this near death experiences. So the fact that some people, even though their brain has stopped functioning, they still have mental experiences, and then they report them when they come back to life. They report those mental experiences. And so I talked about proof of heaven, the neuroscientist whose brain function stopped for a week and he still had mental experiences. And then we talked about this phenomena of tukdom, which is the fact that some meditators have the ability, their consciousness, to continue to stay in their body and meditate even when all their physical functions have stopped. And this can last up to, for some 2 weeks. I think it's been documented for 2 weeks, and maybe some longer. Which cannot really be explained by residual electrical activity in the brain. Sometimes people say that near-death experiences can be explained that way, but the phenomena of tukdom, where the body does not deteriorate for this amount of time, and the explanation is that consciousness is still present. And could not possibly be caused by the physical, because the physical is no longer producing it in the way that we say it does. So, was that all of them? I think that's all of them. Okay. All right, so let's go on and talk about precious human rebirth. So the main point of looking at our situation now and seeing how amazing it is to recognize that it is very rare, that it doesn't, when you think about all the causes and conditions that went into us even having this class right now, the fact that you are sitting in your home and you have all the causes and conditions that came together for you to be sitting here in front of your computer and receiving the signal where that I am, projecting with my computer, all the causes and conditions that had to come into this moment of us, doing this class. The computer had to be invented. All the things had to be mined. All the satellites had to be launched in order for the signals to be bounced, off of them. And then the miracle of us, of our parents, and the food. And we talked about this a lot in the last course about the dependent arising of us existing. So when you start, looking at the complexity of the causes and conditions that had to come together in order for even this moment to be what it is, it's just it's appalling in some ways. It's just mind-boggling. And when we talk about the opportunities that we have to learn, to practice, to get free from our suffering, that these circumstances, because they are so complex, because they come together, they're, so rarely, um, then they become very, very precious. They become very important when we start to contemplate it. So this precious human life is, the fact that we have a human body and a human mind, the fact that we are able to learn and understand, the fact that Buddhism has been taught and still exists in the world, these techniques, this way of changing our minds, the fact that we have religious freedom in our countries, we can actually, I can sit here. Tushita was allowed to be built in a country that is not Buddhist. The Indian people were so kind to give His Holiness a place to live and to practice, and many Tibetans have found refuges here, and as a result, the lamas that allowed us Westerners to learn Buddhism and support this Dharma center. And all those, that religious freedom, that we didn't have to be Hindu, we didn't have to be Muslim, we don't have to be Christian, that we have this religious freedom to pursue whichever path is best for our minds. It's really amazing. And it again, it's not just one prime minister who made that decision. It's all the people and all the conditions, and the influence of amazing spiritual leaders, as well as the followers of those spiritual leaders, who said, this is important to us and this is what we want for our world. And this is a very virtuous thing, and here we're benefiting from it. We exist in this country where it's possible. I mean, I don't know that Zoom, that in mainland China that one can get this course. I don't know. In Hong Kong, I think we have, it's possible maybe, but there's a lot of, places where the internet is just limited in a lot of ways. And that in India, actually, they really have a lot of infrastructure, that they've built, that Tushita up in the the foothills of the Himalayas, that even in this rainstorm we can still have a signal. I mean, it's amazing. And then you yourself have interest in spiritual practice. You yourself are not just focused on the material, um, and the only this life, and only my apartment and my family and my job, and getting good food, and like, you have, you're creating time and space in your mind for something that cannot necessarily be seen or experienced with the senses. So again, thinking about the fact that all the complexity of causes and conditions, and the rarity for all these things to come together. You are not alone in your spiritual practice. You have the time, the energy, the material conditions to be able to practice. You have freedom from suffering, enough. So, I mean, if you were sick all the time, or if you were hungry all the time, then you couldn't put your mind toward the Dharma. You couldn't, spend your time practicing. And there you have access to qualified spiritual teachers. The monastic colleges still exist. His Holiness so kindly established those again, and the lamas that followed him, that believe in him, followed his wishes, and reestablished centers where I could be taught. I actually learned in a place called Metripa College in Portland, Oregon, and it was my main teacher, and the person who founded the college was actually a student of Lama Yeshe and Lama Zopa, and he was recognized as a reincarnation of one of Lama Yeshe's teachers. So, and he was encouraged, and Lama Zopa supported him to establish this college, because before I learned how to, learned that deeply about Buddhism, if the lamas were not allowed to travel to the US, there's no way I would be sitting here teaching you. Okay. And all these, again, all these causes and conditions that come together. So the rarity of this precious situation that we're in makes us then motivated to use it well. Like I talked about the rice. If you have, a whole storage locker full of rice, then if a few grains fall on the ground, no big deal. But if you only have one bag of rice, then each grain becomes precious. Okay? So recognizing again that this situation that we have is going to end, then we don't waste it, right? We're less likely to spend, 6 hours on Netflix or Prime Video, we're more likely to spend an hour and a half, focusing on our Buddhist practice, which doesn't mean that we can never watch Netflix or, Prime Video. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying, because of course you want to enjoy this life that we have. What I'm saying is about creating space for spiritual practice, creating space to use this, wisely. Okay, because it's rare. All right. So let's see, we've got 20 minutes. Let's stop here and switch. Oh, I want to share one more quote, and then we'll go on to the next thing. Okay, so I have a quote, and this is from Lama Yeshe's book, Introduction to Tantra. So he's talking about renunciation here, and he says it indicates a deep, heartfelt decision, definitely to emerge from the repeated frustrations and disappointments of ordinary life. Simply stated, renunciation is the feeling of being so completely fed up with our recurring problems that we are finally ready to turn away from our attachments to this and that and begin searching for another way to make our life satisfying and meaningful. So contemplating this precious human life and the fact that it's not going to last forever, and the suffering that we have that we want to be free from, and the karmic situation that we're stuck in, of cause and effect, then we start to see that we want to spend time. We want to motivate ourselves to do our meditation practice, to do our study, to spend time in classes like these. That this is actually what is going to turn the tide for us to not be subject to these problems again and again and again. And of course, in this life, starting to make our lives better, but also for future lives, that we don't have to be a teenager again. We don't have to go through that all over again. That somehow we can be free of that. We can start to, and then of course, once we figure out how to do it for ourselves, we become better able to do it for others. Okay, so I want to go into meditation now, and I want to talk about some of the antidotes to the difficulties that we have, in particular through developing concentration. Because within this small scope and medium scope, we're trying to develop realizations and new habits of the mind that start to see things differently. So maybe we have a habit of the mind that thinks that that watching Netflix is the source of our ultimate happiness, that this is, what we turn to in order to be happy, or starting to see things, as, grasping, that we have to have, lots of wealth, or we have to have, lots of friends, then that these are the ultimate source of our happiness. So when we are starting to change our habits, to think differently, this ability to concentrate, to calm our mind, to focus our mind, to work to make our mind more flexible, it becomes very important, because our mind is very powerful in the habits that it has already developed, because of the karma, because we have imprinted the seeds on our mind streams to think in a certain way. And if we want to think differently, like Apple says, then we have to learn to make our minds flexible, and we do this through meditation. So what we're going to do now is we actually figured out that there is an amazing Zoom function where we can have you break out into groups. So what we'll do is we'll have you discuss with 2 other people. So we'll break you into groups, 3 people, just talking about some of the obstacles and some of the successes that you have had in the process of developing your meditation practice. So I'm assuming that many of you have already been working on your meditation, and that you have run into some things that were difficult for you and some solutions that you have come up with. So if you're still having obstacles, you can talk about those. If you've had obstacles and you've found solutions, you can talk about those. And we'll give you about, let's say, Felipe, let's say 10 minutes. Okay. And then after 10 minutes, before 10 minutes are up, it'll give you a warning, and then it'll return you to the whole group, and then I'll continue with the teaching. Okay. So you don't have to do anything. You just are there, and it might help you. Of course, Felipe will unmute you, allow you to unmute yourself so you can talk. And it might help you to start your video again so the people that you're talking to can see you. Okay, so go ahead, Felipe, when you're ready.
Yes, and Venerable Drolma, just to let you know,
Yes.
because you're one of the participants in the meeting, then you'll be put in one group, so you can either mute yourself or I don't know.
Okay.
You'll be sent
Okay.
to one of the groups.
Yeah, I'll participate. It's no problem.
Oh.
Hi, Eleanor.
Oh, hi.
Hi.
Hi. I
So,
thought, yeah, go on.
Oh, we may have one more person, or it may be just us 2, but maybe we can get started.
Oh, lovely. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. We talked about obstacles, like, is there somebody joining us?
It looks like Fernando. Hi, Fernando.
Yes. Hi.
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, good. I thought I was muted.
No, so go ahead, Eleanor. Let's hear it.
No, the obstacles that I have found over the years, I don't work anymore, as you can probably tell, but the time factor was one of the big things. So I used to incorporate it into my practice, into my nursing practice, as much as I possibly could. And motivation sometimes was diminished, like getting the willpower just to come and sit down and meditate. Like I've read quite a bit and heard a lot recently about joyous effort, so I've been working on that, making it a joyful thing rather than, oh, do I have to do it again? That sort of thing. So those are the sort of things that I've been working on over the years. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's worked for you.
It has been working. Yeah. That joyous effort in particular.
Yeah.
That has been, every day I hear things, but every time there's something new in what I hear, it might be the same thing. It might be the same topic that I listen to, but I learn something different. There's something new there, which is really exciting, actually, because I've heard that for years, and I thought, oh, yeah, all right.
Yeah, I know. I like that too about the Buddhist teachings. Yeah, that you can go deeper. Every time you hear it again, you hear it differently. I really like that.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
In fact, there's like a thing related to that in Zen Buddhism, to have a beginner mind or something like that, right? That even if you have already heard this teaching or whatever teaching like many times before, it's always to try to listening again with a beginner mind so that you can get started.
Yeah.
So, Geshe Dawa always tells me that here in Mexico City, at the center here in Mexico City, he always tells me that whenever, even if I'm like going for another teaching that I have received many times, it's always important to have that mind that it's not egocentric. And I don't know, I try to do that. Although my practice, I gotta say, it's not the best. I always try to improve it in some ways. I try to make it constant, but it's difficult for me, I guess.
I like yesterday I heard particularly, you know, in your talk was about having an open mind, you know, and I know that that's really important, but somehow that resonated really well, you know, having an open mind instead of being fixed, you know, on past beliefs or past practices or past whatever, you know, just keeping an open mind. I think for me that's been, you know, really important. And distractions, that's another thing. In the middle of your talk there, my phone went and I had to go, you know, and I think what to me, because my computer's broken and I'm using an iPad, you know, and I had to find out whether it was worth getting it fixed or not, and it's not, you know. So, but you know, it's just those distractions that you think, will I, won't I, will I, won't I, you know, is it important enough for me to leave what I'm hearing, you know? Anyway, I'm babbling.
No, distractions, definitely. I spend a lot of time being mad at myself for not meditating enough. And that never worked, you know, being mad at myself for not being somehow perfect. You know, I have this ideal of how I would spend my day, because I have a lot of free time too. I teach, but I also have a lot of free time, and because my life is very simple. And I and then when we couldn't meet those goals, then I felt like I was failing. So then I wouldn't do anything. You know, I'm worthless, so why even try? I think I had that attitude. And I started to be more accepting of, this is just where I am. You know, this is as much energy as I have, and this is what I can do. And so try to do it. You know, try to use it. You know, that was sort of shifted for me more recently in my practice.
I think that those old I don't know what to call them, concepts, those old beliefs of guilt, you know, like not doing good enough, not being good enough, you know, always wanting to do better, to do more, and pushing until sometimes I have done this to my own detriment, physically, you know, and mentally, you know, pushed it to the limit. And I'm learning now in my old age, it's never too late, but this is causes and conditions for my next life, you know, you know, but I'm learning to be kind to myself.
I'm much more, because I think I even, you know, I discovered that it was not laziness, that it was actually more like chronic fatigue. And I don't have that extremely, but I do have a touch of that. And it just seeing it more in this light of a medical thing, instead of seeing it as I am somehow willfully, you know, and the guilt, I'm a bad person because I don't practice, you know, I'm a bad person. And that, you know, that's crazy, because there's no such thing as a bad person. So, so that's shifted for me. Fernando, how have you worked with it?
With practice and guilt?
Whatever.
My practice has never been that good, to be honest. It has been until now, this coronavirus retreat, that I have been able to practice every day to a certain degree. Even with my groups, different groups in here in Mexico, since I consider myself to be Rime or that, so I have like, I mean, my contact what was at the beginning with the FPMT, because my first teachings I received it there at the Tushita Meditation Center. And I remember that when I was meditating there, I was like, oh my God, this is so difficult. How am I going to do it whenever I get out of here, you know? Then I was fortunate enough, because I met like an Argentinian and a Portuguese girl, and they invited me to go and travel with them to Nepal. And they were going to another retreat. I have no idea where. They were going to Copan, and I did the November course. Intense and long, and I was like, I love this, but simultaneously my legs were killing me. And nowadays, even when it has been like already 10 years, and I kind of like live a little bit Buddhism for a while, because I was going crazy in relation to protocols and things that are strict sometimes in the FPMT. So that's why I left it aside for a while. I went to Australia because I studied there my master's. And even when my friends were telling me, go and see Venerable Ravina, I was like, no, I don't want to. I don't want to be Buddhist right now, you know. I just want to focus on my studies, I guess. But I was in a really samsaric time at that time, not because I was drinking or anything, but just because I was enjoying life, you know. I was in this desire realm in 100%. And even when I came back to the FPMT and the center here in Mexico City, I started I kind of pushed me really hard at the beginning, like 2 years ago, when I retake this. And it was really hard for me because I've never been really good at meditating. I mean, I love to listen. But it has been all really difficult for me to do shamatha. So, and that guilt that you mentioned, you know, it's like, how are you going to enlighten yourself? How are you going to reach enlightenment if you're not doing it?
Yeah.
And
yeah. Huh. Yeah, and it just, I don't know. It takes time. It takes, effort. But you can do it. I mean, everybody can. And if you can study, you can meditate, right? Yeah.
Something that got me in Buddhism was...
Before you go through, we're going to have to stop soon. It'll cut us off, so you know automatically. But go ahead, finish. Something in Buddhism?
That caught me there, that made me stay, was bodhicitta, because I received teachings from the Bodhicharyavatara in Sarnath by His Holiness the Dalai Lama. That was mind-blowing for me. I mean, from really long time ago, I was like wishing that, you know, that we're all one in this world and there's no difference. But then when I heard that Shantideva words, it was amazing for me, you know. I felt that connection. And I loved it.
Yeah. Okay.
Blessings.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, welcome back. Isn't that fun? That was really exciting. I enjoyed that a lot. Because we do that here at Tushita when we have courses. If you've been in courses, I'll have people, you know, do these, you know, pairs and 3 of them talk about things. And I didn't know we could do that in Zoom until yesterday. Okay, so let me get started again. So just to review some of the types of meditation. Oh, I didn't take that into consideration, did I? All right. We have calm abiding meditation, or shamatha, as it's also known as, which is about single-pointed focus, usually starting on the breath. But last course, we also did the awareness of awareness. We use that as our single-pointed focus. Relaxation, so the space of the mind, which I think you have the option of doing. We're going to do some calm abiding meditation here in a little bit. Very important that there is relaxation, that there is clarity and calm abiding of the object that you are meditating on, and that it has this sense of introspection, in the sense that we are evaluating the quality of our concentration, of our focus on whatever it is that we're meditating on, the object of our meditation. So analytic meditation uses active thinking to analyze a topic in our minds. We question it, we debate on it. And when we combine these two, when we combine calm abiding with analytic also known as vipassana, that is when the mind starts to change, when we actually start to challenge our usual ways of thinking about things, whether it is that thinking that we have all the time in the world and that, you know, we can waste time would be a usual attitude, a habitual way of thinking that we would have to challenge with our meditation on a precious human rebirth, with our meditation on death and impermanence. So this is an example of analytic meditation. But in order to stay on that topic, in order to fully have the impact of the conclusions that we come to in our mind, like this urgency, like definitely I need to use my time well. I don't have as much as I believed that I had. When we use our concentration to bring that conclusion, it becomes much more powerful in affecting our thinking. And then mindfulness, this open awareness to whatever is arising, and includes being aware of the presence of consciousness. It's not just bare attention, and it also brings us into the present moment. So we talked a lot about what mindfulness, using that especially when we're dealing with difficult emotions, and when we're in the midst of feeling like a lot of anger or a lot of jealousy or a lot of physical or emotional pain, that mindfulness can actually help us create some of our distinction between this space between what we are feeling and our ability to observe it. Okay, so there was a really good presentation. It's now on YouTube with Mingyur Rinpoche. He just did a teaching last Sunday, and it's I think has to do with distress and anxiety, and he explains this process of mindfulness to dealing with anxiety. And I don't know if you can find that, Felipe. If you can find that, the link to that YouTube, I can do it too, but I don't want to take the time to do it now. But if you
I'm
can
doing
find
it
that,
now, Venerable.
okay,
I'm checking.
good. It was just last Sunday. Yeah, and it's about an hour long, and it's an excellent talk on using mindfulness to deal with difficult emotions. Okay, so while he's looking that up, let's go on and talk about some of the, thank you, some of the signs of progress. Okay, how do we know that we're making progress in our meditation? And this is actually really helpful, because then when we start to see progress, then we become more motivated to practice more. So let's look at this slide. This comes from Alan Wallace, who is an amazing shamatha teacher. Okay. So one of the signs of progress is that people notice you changing. They notice that you are more calm. They notice that you are more focused. They notice that you don't have the same reactivity. You develop more concentration. So it's very interesting. You start to notice that you're better able to ignore distractions because you've been practicing it in your shamatha. It's kind of amazing. It just becomes easier to stay. Your memory gets better too, because you can concentrate more easily. I am so much better at remembering phone numbers now, and I can remember 10 digits instead of just 7. And even those little, those one-time codes you get when you buy something and you have to validate your credit card online, I remember those so much more easily now that I meditate more. We have interesting meditation experiences, and you don't want to pay too much attention to these and give them too much credence, but it's really nice. It's like, oh, wow, look at this. This is like, I thought it was such a boring thing to meditate. We start to have more spontaneous resolution of posture problems. So if we used to have a lot of difficulty with our knees or with our back, that they start to, go away. And it's not because, and it is because you've stuck with it, but it's also like, it seems almost magical in some ways. Like you start to notice like, wow, I can sit up straight, you know, my posture is just better in general. Less reactivity, more choice. So when things happen in our, you know, external circumstances, someone says something, we you know, some anxiety arises in response to, you know, a situation that we hear about, you know, someone's thinking about a decision that they're going to make about our situation, and we get all scared about it. We actually don't jump into that and react to that as quickly. We're more able to stay with it, to sit with it. We become more aware of our actions because of this mindfulness, because of the ability to observe while we are acting. We become more aware of what is it that I'm actually saying to this person, and don't I want to say something that is beneficial? So through meditation, we start to become more aware of that. Let's see, what were some of the others? More feelings of calm, and then more dissatisfied with ourselves and our current situation, and wanting to change, wanting to you know, to be better people because of this awareness of our own thoughts. And so when you start to notice these, you know, as a result of your meditation practice, you start to notice these in your own mind and in your own world, then this becomes your motivation to continue, and also to make it regular, to make it, you know, a habit that you do all the time. I do find that if I don't get up early enough to do my meditation in the morning, I notice it throughout the day. I don't feel as grounded. I don't feel as calm. I feel more reactive. Yeah, like I'm less able to deal with my world as effectively, because it decreases my stress. And it also helps me focus, get out of myself and focus on others. And when I focus on others, it makes me happier. That whole bodhicitta motivation, that is, yeah, kind of, it still surprises me when I think about, you know, how focusing on others actually improves my life and improves myself. But I become aware of that when I'm being more selfish and more contracted. Okay. All right, that's enough of that. So let's do some questions.
Okay, I'm going to start by unmuting Amit. Amit, you can ask your question now.
Yeah. Thank you for giving me the chance to ask a question. Since second week of January, my father hasn't been keeping very well. He has had multiple issues of kidney, heart, urology. He's diabetic for over 25 years. He's anemic too. Even though he's functional and independent, but he's very, very weak. I fear that he may lose the body anytime. And since yesterday, what I've been contemplating is, ever since we have started discussing the topic of rebirth, is there a way I can help influencing his mind so that he gets a better life? You know, as you said, the state of mind at the time of death will determine the state of mind at the time of next birth.
Mm-hmm.
I, as his elder son, can I influence his state of mind so that he gets a better state of mind and a new life? Do I have that as a human being in realm 4? Do I have that ability and capacity to alter his state of mind?
Yes, on a couple of different levels. His Holiness talked about this in terms of when we have close karmic connections with others, we can become a powerful condition for the influencing the next rebirth that they will take.
Wow.
Yeah, because of interdependence and also that closeness of that connection. Now, another thing that you can do is you can remind him of how the good things that he has done in his life. what an amazing person he has been, so that when he gets ready to die, he doesn't have too many regrets. You know, sometimes, and older people don't necessarily share that with us. I don't know what your relationship is with your father, but if he has regrets, helping him to get through those, forgive himself, forgive others, so that it starts to clear, and then reminding him of all the amazing ways, you know, virtuous activities that he has done, then uplifts the mind. Okay.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
and if he has been a religious person, you know, whether it's Buddhism or not, doesn't matter. No, not really. Okay, so just you know, how he has benefited his family, how he has benefited the world through his business or whatever he did, you know, in the world, how much, you know, what a positive influence he was in his life is going to uplift his mind. And then you know, and then when he gets closer and starts to lose consciousness and you can't really interact with him anymore, doing Tong Len, they talk about at the time of death, where you take away his suffering and you give him love. You know, you transform that suffering into love. That can be a very powerful practice as well.
No, I share a great rapport with him at this stage of life. He really feels connected with me, but I didn't know that I can influence it this way. So starting
Oh,
today, I will do this conversation and help him focus more on his positive influences he has created in his life so that it uplifts his mental state. Thank you so
yes,
much. Thank you.
sure. You're welcome.
Okay, now we go to Gitanjali.
Good morning, Venerable Drolma, and thank you, Felipe, for admitting this question. My question is motivated by my love for animals, and what I wanted to ask was that if someone reincarnates as an animal, then does it necessarily mean that their karma has been not so good in the previous birth, and that's why they are in this realm now?
Mhm.
Also, as an animal, what can you do to improve your karma so that your next reincarnation is not in this realm?
Mhm. So we can't necessarily know whether the karma that caused them to be born in the animal realm was the result of the immediate previous life. Okay, it could have been other past lives, because we all have lots of positive and lots of negative karmic seeds that we have imprinted. So it isn't necessarily a past life, specifically the past life, that results in them being born as an animal in this life. It could have, yeah, we can't necessarily know, but it could have been that karma, that it was its turn to ripen in that moment. But we don't know when the seed was planted. Now in this life, one thing that they can, you know, if their mind is very limited, they can't necessarily create positive karma, because positive karma has a lot to do with intention. Okay, but we as their owners, like you know, and we who take care of them, we can help them. Hold on a second. We can help them to like protect them from killing. Like sometimes with cats, we can stop, you know, cats from, you know, killing birds and insects and that sort of thing. We can also say mantras for them. We can, you know, expose them to, you know, like play mantras for them out loud. We can expose them to, you know, images of deities. We can we do like lots of circumambulation with our animals around stupas and things like that. So we can, you know, give them as much as possible in their environment the imprints that will then, when they have exposure to this in a next life, they feel connected to it. They feel like it's a familiar thing for them, and then they become attracted to it. So that's what we talk about with animals a lot.
Okay, thank you very much.
There's just one more thing. If you go on the FPM website, there's a whole practice of animal liberation that gives you lots of ideas about how to help animals to have a better next life.
Thank you. I'll have a look at it. Thank you.
Great, great. Yep, another question?
Let's go to Paul. I'm muting you now. You can ask your question out loud.
Hi, Venerable Drolma. Thank you so
Hi.
much. So I just had a little clarifying question. Calm abiding meditation to me seems identical, if not very similar, to mindfulness of breathing meditation. And so I'm a little confused just about the specific difference between calm abiding meditation and mindfulness meditation, because it seems to me like calm abiding might be like a kind of mindfulness, or I'm maybe missing something.
Yeah, they're definitely very close. So they're very similar, and you're right, they have these similarities in the sense that mindfulness of breathing is not actually, they talk about the 4 applications of mindfulness, and the first one being bodily sensations, which then you can narrow down to breathing. But in general, they don't talk about mindfulness of breathing as one of the 4 applications of mindfulness. So already you're talking about a narrowing of the focus from mindfulness to shamatha. Okay, from all bodily sensations down to specifically breathing. And then when we're so this is the difference, is that we're talking about with mindfulness, you tend to be more open to whatever is arising, whether it's on a physical level or an emotional level or thoughts or phenomena, sounds, right? Sounds or sights or, phenomena, external world kind of things. So with calm abiding, you're actually narrowing it down to it. And so what this does is it actually affects the mind in a different way than mindfulness. Mindfulness, you aren't directing it. You aren't moving it towards something again and again and again. You're actually, the emphasis in mindfulness is more about opening to something.
Okay.
Okay. So you see the difference?
Yeah.
Okay, another similarity is that mindfulness, you are aware of your consciousness, okay? You're aware of your presence and that you are observing, and same with calm abiding. Calm abiding, you are still aware that you are attending, but now what you're attending to becomes much more focused.
Okay. Okay, I think I understand. Thank you.
Sure, welcome.
Shall we do one more?
Sure.
Next one in the queue is Big Young. So you can now ask your question.
Hey, am I audible?
Hello.
Hi, thank you. Good morning. So I had attended Tushita about a year and a half ago, and if I'm not wrong, it was you who had, while Venerable Rubina was taking the classes. So you had taught us 4-point power meditation for purification of karma. So
Yes.
I'm sorry if I missed it, because I missed about 2 days in the introduction course. So maybe if that is not covered yet, can we do that? Because I really, that was a very helpful thing for a lot of us at that point of time.
So we did that in the last course.
Okay.
And you can go on Facebook and watch the recording of that presentation.
Surely. Thanks a lot. And
Okay.
can I ask
Yeah.
another small question?
Sure.
Yeah. So, in this age, we are all used to getting very fast results with whatever we do. So, in a way, fast gratification. So, with meditation, obviously, the results that we see is a lot more long term. So, how do we kind of stick to meditation or be more consistent with it? Because obviously, the benefit of it will be seen at a slower pace.
So how do we stick with the habit of meditation on a regular basis? That's your question?
Yeah, because in this age we are very used to getting faster results from whatever, or
Right,
the way, yeah. For example, we
right,
stick to sugars and foods like that, which are going to make us happy at that point of time. So how do we
right.
shift our mind from that to something which is going to be very
Yeah.
a lot more helpful, but in a longer term?
Right. So one thing you can do is remind yourself of the benefits. It's like going to the gym. You know, when you go to the gym or when you work out, you don't see the immediate benefits of that particular session. You know,
Hmm.
in one day you don't see that you are stronger or see that you are more flexible or, you know, even see the tone in your body. But you
Hmm.
know in your mind that if you stick with this again and again and again, you're going to eventually see the benefits. So
Yep.
it's, you know, you can make a list for yourself of what is it that you want to achieve. You know, what kind of qualities do you want to develop? What kind of qualities do you want to develop in your, you know, as a result of your meditation practice? And then you remind yourself of those on a regular basis, and you say, no, I want to calm mind, I want to focus mind, I want to have some meditative experiences, I want to change, you know, I don't want to be so reactive, I want to be happier in my life. And you know, so then you remind yourself of those, and that becomes a motivation for doing it.
Got it. Got it. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Thanks a lot.
I was gonna try to look up, let me find what day we did the the four opponent powers, and then I can, in the last course, and then you can go specifically to that day. Intro course topics. It was day 6. So the first online course, day 6, if you go to the, and you can go to Facebook and it'll take you to the YouTube, and day 6 will give you that. Okay. Do you want to do some meditation or one more question? What do you think, Felipe?
I think we can move on to the meditation then when we have exactly 20 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, let's do that.
Cool. So everyone please go back to your postures and try to set up a posture which is comfortable and allow your body to become grounded. And we'll be doing some abiding meditation in this case. So begin by allowing the bell to bring you into the space of the body first. We'll go through a preliminary process of settling the body in its natural state. And for that, first we allow the awareness to become grounded in the physical sensations of the body, particularly those that manifest in the area where your body is in contact with whatever surface you're sitting on. Try to really experience, become aware of, and feel the sensation of weight, of pressure that your body exerts against the cushion or the surface that you sit on. And allow your awareness to become grounded in those sensations just by observing them. And then gently expand the awareness to actually cover the entire space of the body, observing the entire realm of physical sensations and paying attention to whatever physical sensation arises. The feeling of temperature, hot or cold, pressure, itchiness, tingling, pain, comfort, discomfort. Whatever it is that you can feel on a physical level, just bring your attention to it briefly and just experience it for a moment. Then let it go. In this way, connecting with the space of the body, becoming aware of your body, which is something that we're usually very much disconnected from. Now slowly and gently bring the awareness to the very top of the head, what we call the crown of the head. And staying there for a moment, simply try to notice if you can actually feel anything in that area. If there are physical sensations there, even though they might be subtle, you can try to tune your awareness to actually detect them, to feel whatever physical sensations arise at the top of your head. And from that point, we start to move the awareness downward, scanning the body very thoroughly, paying attention to every single part and every single muscle, no matter how big or how small. But this time we look out for a particular type of sensation, that of tension. So wherever you find an area that is feeling tight or constrained, then focus on that area for a moment and simply soften it, release the tightness and let it go. Start by paying attention to the area of the face, all the small muscles around the eyes, the eyebrows, the area of the nose, cheeks, the temples, the area of the lips and the mouth and the jaw, Soften and relax every single muscle. And going down to the area of the throat and the neck. And then returning to the back of the head, the back of the neck. Noticing any tension or any stress accumulated there. And so in that way, continue to move the awareness down through the torso, the area of the chest and the abdomen, the area of the shoulders, shoulder blades, the back, the lower back, from the shoulder going down through each of the arms, until reaching the very tip of your every finger. And then the area of the pelvis, the hips, and then going down each leg individually, from the hip to the knee, from the knee to the ankle, from the ankle to the tip of the toes, relaxing, letting go, releasing all tension and all tightness. And yet maintaining alertness. And in this way, the body goes back to its natural state, a state of balance, of equilibrium, a state which possesses the qualities of relaxation, stillness, and alertness. And synchronizing your mind in this same state of balance. We can now start using an object as support for awareness. And you can choose whether you want to keep the object in the physical level, such as body sensations, the breath at the abdomen, the breath at the nostrils, or you can observe thoughts and mental images, observing the space of the mind, or even choose to observe awareness itself. Whatever object you choose, make sure that you stick to it for the remaining of the session. Start by setting a strong intention to remain focused on that object. However, as the session progresses, you might notice that you're becoming distracted either by external input coming from the senses, such as noises, images, movement, pain, or other bodily sensations. Or more obviously, internal input such as thoughts, memories, plans about the future, worries or concerns. And these only become distractions if you pay attention to them. So to the best of your ability, try to remain focused on the object that you're paying attention to. But if you do get distracted, just recognize it. Relax, release the distraction, and return to the object. Are you still focused on the object? Notice what the mind is doing. Be aware and engage with the process. Meditation is not about becoming blank or spaced out, but rather maintaining awareness. So pay attention to being mentally excited with too many thoughts and chasing after them, and also being dull and sleepy. Try to bring yourself back to balance and continue to observe your object of meditation. Check the body and check the mind. Be aware of what's going on and adjust accordingly. And coming out of the meditation, slowly and gently. And acknowledging the good action, the good practice that we've done now during this session, teachings and meditation. We can now share and offer the merit of this session to all sentient beings. May all beings everywhere, plagued by sufferings of body and mind, obtain an ocean of happiness and joy by virtue of my merits. May no living creature suffer, commit evil, or ever fall ill. May no one be afraid or belittled, with a mind weighed down by depression. May the blind see forms and the deaf hear sounds. May those whose bodies are worn with toil be restored and find in repose. May the naked find clothing, the hungry find food. May the thirsty find water and delicious drinks. May the poor find wealth, those weak with sorrow find joy. May the forlorn find hope, constant happiness, and prosperity. May there be timely rains and bountiful harvests. May all medicines be effective and wholesome prayers bear fruit. May all sick and ill quickly be freed from their ailments. Whatever diseases are in the world, they may never occur again. May the frightened cease to be afraid, and those bound be freed. May the powerless find power, and may people think of benefiting each other. For as long as space remains, for as long as sentient beings remain, until then, may I too remain to dispel the mysteries of the world.
Okay, thank you everybody for coming and meditating and practicing, and you did a good job. You were wonderful. You showed up, you participated, you learned, you thought. So you're awesome, amazing. And I'll see you again tomorrow.
Thanks everyone. Bye bye. Thank you, Venerable Drolma.
Thank you.